Good morning. I think we'll go ahead and get started.
Mic test.
Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the May 19th Victim Compensation Board meeting. This is our first in-person meeting in over 2 years, and it's really great to see a room full of claimants and advocates in the room here together in person as we all work together to accomplish the board's important work. For those of you who are in the room and are appearing on a specific agenda item, or if you wish to offer public comment, please be aware that the microphones at the podium and at the tables are directional. So if you want to speak, you have to hold them kind of close in order to for your voice to go through, so that the testimony can be captured by the audio equipment. For participants who are appearing via Zoom, if you cannot hear the presenter, please indicate that in the comment feature. Staff are monitoring the comments in real time. And so with that, let's begin the meeting. Council, would you please call the roll?
Member Becton.
Present.
Member Silva.
Present.
Chair Ravel.
Present.
Morning, everyone. Item number 1 is the approval of the minutes for the March 17th, 2022 board meeting.
Is there any discussion, addition, or comments on the minutes from the board members? Do I have a motion to approve item 1?
I move approval of the March 17th, 2022 minutes.
I'll second that.
Is there any public comment on this item? Council, will you please call the roll?
Motion before the board is the approval of the March 17th, 2022 board meeting minutes. Member Becton.
Aye.
Member Silva.
Aye.
Chair Ravel.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next item is public comment. This is the opportunity for the public to comment on items that are not on the agenda. As any items, excuse me, discussed during public comment have not been agendized, the board is not permitted to take any action on these matters at this meeting. For those on the phone, if you previously indicated your desire to offer comments during this meeting, we will be calling on you by name or phone number. For those participating via Zoom, please raise your hand if you wish to offer comment, and we will acknowledge you and let you know when it is your turn to speak. Don't see. Oh, I do see one person with their hand raised. You could go ahead and unmute and speak.
Where? There we go.
Go ahead.
If you're on Zoom, you may go ahead and speak.
Good morning, commissioners. This is Audrey McGinn. The person who raised their hand is Alex Torres. I'm Mr. Torres' attorney. I think he raised his hand erroneously.
Oh, okay.
I think it was just by mistake. No problem. Thank you.
Item 3 is the executive officer statement, which will be presented by Executive Officer Linda Gledhill.
Good morning. I also want to echo how nice it is to be back here together in person. I also want to thank the Cal VCB technical staff who have worked hard to set up this meeting so we can do it in this hybrid manner. And I want to thank you for your patience as we continue to work in this new way of doing business. This month, my main update revolves around the Cal VCB budget. Last week, the governor unveiled his May revision, which includes 2 new appropriations for Cal VCB. First, the governor proposed a $3 million allocation from the State Restitution Fund to conduct a media and outreach campaign. CalVCB will use this appropriation for a strategic 3-year campaign to target underserved populations, help boost awareness of CalVCB, and connect victims with the compensation and services they need. While our application numbers do continue to grow, data shows that the numbers of violent crimes are rising even faster. In the most current year, the number of applications received statewide is only 23.4% of the number of violent crimes reported. These declining numbers cause us concern that the current model of outreach, which is mainly focused on engagement with community-based organizations, law enforcement, and county services, is not reaching all eligible crime victims. In addition, we know that the COVID-19 pandemic has had an isolating effect on many people, including victims of crime, making it difficult to reach them. This media campaign will help overcome traditional barriers that exist to accessing CalVCB, in addition to those created by the pandemic. We'll also create a foundation for outreach that CalVCB can build off of once the campaign concludes. We will hire a vendor to create and execute this campaign, and I'm very excited about this opportunity for us to reach more victims. In addition, the governor proposed spending $30 million one time from the general fund to establish an innovative pilot grant program to provide victim services across California. For victims needing services, there are large inequities in what is available in different regions of the state. Rural areas in particular have limited access to victim services. This competitive grant program will fund local entities throughout California to fill that void with the flexibility to do it in a way that is most practical and effective in their areas, and it would require a 20% match. These additions in the May revision are on top of what was proposed in the governor's January budget. And just to remind you, those proposals would increase our federal authority benefit limit to accommodate the increase in our Federal Victims of Crime Act reimbursement rate. It would use this additional funding to support an increase in benefit limits for crime scene cleanups, funeral burial costs, and relocation claims. These limits that were set more than 20 years ago and haven't been raised in that time. It would also change the way we compensate those who have been found erroneously convicted and deserving of payment at these board meetings. The budget proposal would allow us to pay those claims directly without going through the legislative process. It would also allocate $2.4 million for our IT infrastructure and information security. And it would provide us additional funds to assist us in processing what we expect would be an increase in erroneous conviction claims under SB 446 that took effect January 1st. Also, we learned in the May revision that the Prop 47 savings is greater than what was projected in January. 10% of the Prop 47 savings goes toward funding our Trauma Recovery Center grants. So there's an additional $1.38 million that is being applied to the 2022 grant awards that the board approved in March. I should also mention that Senate leadership has recommended enhancing CalVCB's budget in various ways, including creating $115 million ongoing backfill to the restitution fund and providing $15 million one time to increase grants for trauma recovery centers. As you can tell, there's a lot of items in the legislature impacting CalVCB, and we look forward to seeing how things work out. We hope and expect that the final budget will allow us to do much more to help victims. Now I'd like to update you on the rulemaking process to revise and amend regulations governing Penal Code Section 4900 claims that the board officially started with its approval on March 17th. On March 21st, we submitted the proposed regulations along with a notice of proposed rulemaking and initial statement of reasons to the Office of Administrative Law. Those documents were published on April 1st in the California Regulatory Notice Register and on our website. The 40-day public comment period ensued, spanning from April 1st to May 16th. No public hearing was scheduled, none was requested. We did receive some feedback to the proposed regulations, which is under consideration, and we anticipate proposing some modification to the proposed regulations, which would trigger another 15-day public comment period. These changes include referencing an updated version of the claim form, as well as substituting the technical term of jurisdiction with its specific definition in this administrative context. CalVCB hopes to have a final version of the regulations ready to present for the board's approval at the July board meeting. Lastly, I'm proud to say that CalVCB conducted a denim drive in the month of April, coinciding with Sexual Assault Awareness Month, National Crime Victims' Rights Weeks, and Denim Day. This was exciting for many reasons, one of which was that it was the first time in 2 years that we've been able to have in-person commemoration of these events. Our staff continued to come into the office 1 day a week, and we collected denim from them as well as from the public. On Denim Day, which was April 27th, we presented Weave with nearly 100 pairs of jeans. Weave is the primary provider of crisis intervention services for survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault in Sacramento County. we've came to our offices here and picked up the jeans and then put them in their store, which they use to raise money for their programs. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Officer Gledhill. I'm particularly interested to see if the results of the victim outreach campaign will bear fruit. I think that's a really important project that you're doing there. Are there any questions or comments from board members?
Moving to item 4 is a legislative update, which will be presented by Deputy Directive Officer Andrew Lamar.
Good morning. Hope you can hear me. I know I got to be close to the microphone here. Several of the bills that we are following will be heard today on the suspense file in their respective appropriations committees. Bills will either pass off the file and move to the floor or be held in the committee. So this is a big moment in the process of the legislature during the year. It's sort of the big deadline for bills moving forward. Most notably, the Senate Appropriations Committee will hear SB 993 by Senator Skinner, which would make many significant changes to Cal VCB statutes. The committee will also hear SB 877 by Senator Eggman, which would authorize Cal VCB to reimburse mental health providers who are licensed in states outside of California, and SB 1468 by Senator Glazer, which is related to findings of factual innocence. The Assembly Appropriations Committee will hear AB 2126 by Assemblymember Flora, which would create a new program to be administered by Cal VCB to compensate the family members of those who die from fentanyl overdoses. Additionally, SB 632 by Senator Portantino, which would appropriate funds to pay erroneous conviction claims approved by the board, was recently amended to include the 3 claims that were approved at the March board meeting. The bill would now appropriate $4.5 million from the general fund to pay the 5 claims. The bill was passed by the Appropriations Committee and is currently on the Assembly floor. Those are the highlights. You have a full report in your binder, so I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Deputy Lamar. I'm very interested to see what happens with all those bills today and going forward in the session. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
Is there any public comment on this item? Seeing none, we'll move to item 5, which is a contract update, which will be presented by Deputy Executive Officer Sarah Keck.
Morning. I'm Sarah Keck. Let me see, make sure you can hear me on this. I'm Sarah Keck, the Deputy Executive Officer over Administration and Finance here at Cal VCB. The board has delegated to the Executive Officer authority to execute contracts for the maintenance of the board's information technology system, as well as contracts in an amount not to exceed $200,000. All contracts in excess of $200,000 require the board approval prior to execution. For today's contract report, we have 2 items that require action and 1 additional item. If you guys are ready, I can start with the 2 items requiring action. The first item is a contract for 2Q Incorporated doing business with JP Marketing. This contract amount is in the amount of $276,000 and $276,055. And the contractor is engaged to conduct a statewide outreach campaign in consultation with community-based organizations to locate survivors of state-sponsored. You can hear me a little bit better now. So this contract is specifically for sterilizations conducted during eugenics laws that existed in the state between 1909 and 1979, and to survivors of coerced sterilizations of people in California prisons after 1979. The goal of the outreach campaign is to notify them of the process to apply for victim compensation and accompanying free counseling services. This contract was procured through a competitive bid, and the term is from May 2022 to December of 2023. The second contract requiring action from the board is for the Alliance for a Better Community. This contract is in the amount of $300,000, and the contractor shall conduct initial research of forced or involuntary sterilization that possibly took place up until 2012 at the Los Angeles plus USC Medical Center, formerly known as Los Angeles County Hospital, located in Los Angeles, California. This contract was approved through an exemption per the State Contracting Manual, Volume 1, and the California State Senate Bill 119, Chapter 9, Section 19.57. The contract term is from July 1st, 2022 to 6/31/2024.
Chair Ravel, if I may.
Yes, of course, Council.
Ms. Keck, that first contract that you mentioned was not agendized for today, but I believe that contract may have been approved at the January board meeting. So the contract for review and consideration of the board that has been agendized today is the Alliance for a Better Community for $300,000.
Thank you. Pardon me. For the informational contracts, we have one contract for Covaris. This is in the amount of $96,071.65. And this contract, the contractor shall provide support and maintenance to Dell EMC Avamar system, which enables a fast and efficient backup of CalVCB's data on file shares and servers, including CARES 2 and OLA. This contract was procured through DGS approved leverage procurement agreement under statewide contracts. And the term of this is March 2022 through March of 2023. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Deputy Keck, and thank you, Council, for clarifying.
Thank you.
Are there any questions or discussion from the board? Okay, do I have a motion to approve item 5, the Alliance for a Better Community contract?
I move to approve the executive officer's execution of the Alliance for a Better Community contract in the amount of $300,000.
I'll second the motion.
Is there any public comment on this item?
Council, will you please call the roll?
The motion before the board is approval of the executive officer's authority to execute the Alliance for a Better Community contract in the amount of $300,000. Member Becton.
Aye.
Member Silva.
Aye.
Chair Ravel.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving to item 6 is the Penal Code Section 4900 claim of Monica Magana. I hope I said that right, which will be presented by Chief Counsel Kim Gauthier.
Good morning, everyone. Monica Magana filed an application as an erroneously convicted felon with the California Victim Compensation Board on July 9th of 2021. This application stems from Ms. Magana's 2018 convictions for robbery and burglary in concert, which convictions were reversed on appeal for insufficient evidence of accomplice testimony. The proposed decision recommends denying the application as Ms. Magana has failed to show by a preponderance of the evidence that she is more likely innocent than guilty of her vacated convictions. Ms. Magana has represented herself throughout these proceedings and I believe is with us today. And the Office of the Attorney General is represented by Deputy Attorney General Jessica Leal.
Thank you, Council. We'll hear first from Ms. Magana.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I'm here today to, I know I sent a letter in, a written letter stating of my innocence. And this is my first time ever being before a board. So I'm not really sure how to do this, but I'll just go with, with what I've known that throughout my case, a lot of things were falsely accused. I was falsely accused of a lot of things. And just being based upon someone's testimony, I was found guilty, sentenced to life in prison. during that time of being incarcerated, I also did pay restitution fines and fees. I feel that I should be compensated back for everything that I did put into paying because I was released, and then trying to get an understanding of how much more I needed to prove that I was innocent if I'm here today.
Thank you, Ms. Magana.
Yes.
We hear now from Deputy Attorney General Jessica Leal from the Attorney General's office.
Good morning. The Attorney General's office doesn't have that much more to add to the original answer. As far as the receiving money back from the restitution, the 4900 statutes are limited to compensation based on time served. So that would be outside the scope. Regardless, the Attorney General agrees with the proposed decision of the hearing officer and has no further comment.
Thank you, Counsel. Is there any discussion on this item from board members? Okay. I feel this is a situation where there's just, there hasn't been any affirmative evidence of innocence that's been presented, and so I agree with the proposed staff recommendation. Do I have a motion on item 6?
I move to adopt the hearing officer's proposed decision in the Penal Code Section 4900 matter of Monica Magana.
Second.
Is there any public comment on this item?
None. Counsel, will you please call the roll?
The motion before the board is approval of the hearing officer's proposed decision in the Penal Code Section 4900 matter of Monica Magana. Member Becton.
Aye.
Member Silva.
Aye.
Chair Ravel.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Item 7 is the Penal Code Section 4900 claim of Alexander Torres, which will be presented by Chief Counsel Kim Gutierrez.
On April 19th of 2022, Alexander Torres filed an application as an erroneously convicted felon with the California Victim Compensation Board. That application was based on Mr. Torres's 2001 murder conviction, for which he was found factually innocent in April of 2022. As this claim is based upon a finding of factual innocence, compensation is mandated by Penal Code Section 1485.55. Accordingly, the proposed decision recommends compensation in the amount of $1,061,200, which represents $140 per day for each of the 7,580 days Mr. Torres was wrongfully imprisoned. Mr. Torres is represented by Justin Brooks, Alexander Simpson, and Audrey McGinn with the California Innocence Project and the California Western School of Law. Although no response was requested from the Office of the Attorney General on this matter, Deputy Attorney General Jessica Leal is appearing today.
Thank you, Counsel. We'll hear first from Counsel for Mr. Torres.
Good morning, Commissioners. Audrey McGinn from the California Innocence Project on behalf of claimant Alexander Torres. We agree with the proposed decision that he should be automatically compensated. I don't know if you need anything else from us.
Thank you, Counsel. Mr. Torres, would you like to address the board?
No, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Torres. We'll hear now from Deputy Attorney General Leal from the Attorney General's office.
Good morning again. Not that anything that I say really matters, other than to say we agree that compensation should be granted in this case.
Thank you, Counsel. Is there any discussion of this item by the board? Do I have a motion on item 7?
I move to adopt the hearing officer's proposed decision in the Penal Code Section 4900 matter of Alexander Torres.
I'll second that.
Is there any public comment on this item?
Seeing none, Counsel, will you please call the roll?
The motion before the board is approval of the proposed decision in the Alexander Torres Penal Code Section 4900 matter. Member Becton.
Aye.
Member Silva,
Aye.
Chair Ravel.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next item is 8, which is the Penal Code Section 4900 claim of Juan Bautista, which will be presented by Chief Counsel Kim Gutierrez.
Juan Jesse Batista filed an application with Cal VCB on February 3rd of 2022 as an erroneously convicted felon. This application was based on his 2011 convictions for attempted murder, assault with a firearm, and street terrorism. These convictions were vacated and dismissed during state habeas proceedings in June of 2021. As there was no objection filed by the Office of the Attorney General, compensation is automatic under Penal Code Section 4900, subsection B. Accordingly, the proposed decision recommends compensation in the amount of $617,680. This represents $140 per day for Mr. Batista's 4,412 days wrongfully imprisoned. Mr. Batista is represented by the Northern California Innocence Project, Saurabh Prabhakar, and the Office of the Attorney General is represented by Deputy Attorney General Ian Whitney.
Thank you, Ms. Gautier. We will hear first from counsel for Mr. Batista.
Morning, Chairman of the board members. My name is Saurabh Prabhakar, and I represent Juan Bautista. I'm joined here today by my co-counsel from Northern California Innocence Project, Ms. O'Connell, and Mr. Roberts from the law firm of Covington and Burning, and my client, Mr. Juan Bautista, is here. We respectfully request the board to adopt the hearing officer's recommendation to approve Mr. Bautista's request for compensation. And if the board has any questions for us, we are here to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Mr. Batista, would you like to address the board? Thank you, Mr. Batista. We will hear now from Deputy Attorney General Whitney of the Attorney General's Office.
Good morning, and thank you. As was stated, the Attorney General's Office has no objection to the request for compensation, and we have nothing more to add unless there are any questions.
Thank you, counsel. Is there any discussion on this item by the board? I have a motion on item 8.
I would move to adopt the hearing officer's proposed decision in the Penal Code Section 4900 matter of Juan Bautista.
I second.
Is there any public on this item?
Seeing none, counsel, would you please call the roll?
Motion before the board is approval of Juan Batista's Penal Code Section 4900 matter and the adoption of the proposed decision. Member Becton.
Aye.
Member Silva.
Aye.
Chair Ravel.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Item 9 is the Penal Code Section 4900 claim of Xavion Johnson, which will be presented by Chief Counsel Kim Gutierrez.
Xavion Johnson filed an application as an erroneously convicted person with the California Victim Compensation Board on January 31st of 2022. That application was based on Mr. Johnson's 2002 convictions for murder and assault of a child resulting in death. Those convictions were vacated and dismissed during state habeas proceedings in December of 2017. Similar to the last item, as there was no objection filed by the Office of the Attorney General, compensation is automatic under Penal Code Section 4900, subsection B. And the proposed decision accordingly recommends compensation in the amount of $818,720, which represents $140 for each of the 5,848 days that Mr. Johnson was wrongfully convicted. Mr. Johnson is represented by Supervising Attorney Paige Canib of the Northern California Innocence Project, and the Office of the Attorney General is represented by Deputy Attorney General John Merritt.
Thank you, Ms. Gautier. We will hear first from counsel for Mr. Johnson.
My name is Paige Canib. I'm an attorney at the Northern California Innocence Project, and it's been one of my great honors to represent Xavion Johnson for a lot of years with my co-counsel Hillary and Agwas Rao, who are also here today, and much of our wonderful, many people who worked on this case. Mr. Johnson is, thank you. Mr. Johnson has always been innocent. There was no crime committed in this case. And at 18 years old, he was sentenced to life in prison and sent to a maximum security facility. And ultimately, the state, including the district attorney's office, recognized that he had been wrongfully convicted and dismissed the charges. And we really appreciate the proposed decision and the attorney general's recognition that this was not a case that should be opposed. So we respectfully request that you adopt the proposed decision. And thank you for all of your parts in this.
Thank you, Counsel. Mr. Johnson, would you like to address the board? Thank you, Mr. Johnson. We'll hear now from Deputy Attorney General John Merritt of the Attorney General's Office.
Good morning. The Attorney General has no objection to the proposed decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Counsel. I just want to note for Mr. Johnson, I just can't imagine the pain of losing a child and then having it compounded with having been accused of committing a crime and spending years and years and years in prison for a crime that you didn't commit. I also want to recognize all of the advocacy of the attorneys at the Attorney General's Office and for the claimants, and to thank the claimants for appearing and filing your claims. Is there any discussion on this item by the board? Do I have a motion on item 9?
I move to adopt the hearing officer's proposed decision in the Penal Code Section 4900 matter of Xavion Johnson.
I second.
Is there any public comment on this item?
Seeing none, Counsel, please call the roll.
The motion under consideration is adoption of the hearing officer's proposed decision in the Penal Code Section 4900 matter of Xavion Johnson. Member Becton.
Aye.
Member Silva.
Aye.
Chair Ravel.
Aye.
Motion passes.
The board will now convene into closed session under Government Code Section 11126, sub C3, to discuss numbers 1A through 105 of the Victim Compensation Program. The board is reconvening into open session under Government Code Section 11126 sub C3. Do I have a motion for numbers 1A through 105, accepting number 5 of the Victim Compensation Program?
I move approval of numbers 1A through 105, accepting number 5 of the Victim Compensation Program.
I'll second that.
Council, please call the roll.
Member Becton,
Aye.
Member Silva,
Aye.
Chair Ravel.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Council. Is there any other business that needs to come before the board today?
I move the meeting be adjourned.
I'll second that.
Council, please call the roll.
Member Becton,
Aye.
Member Silva,
Aye.
Chair Ravel.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next meeting is scheduled to occur on July 21st, 2022. Thank you all for coming.
you.
Nice to meet everybody in person.
Good to meet you too.